Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to take a look at pimping out our video player on the submissions page. So if you want to pause the video here, or if you already had a go, no problem. Otherwise, you can watch me do it. So first of all, what I want to do is seed some videos, right? Seed some submissions. So again, I don't have to go through the process of creating that over and over again in case I want to make some changes on the back end, right? So let's go ahead and open up our program. Obviously, I can't spell today either. Something is definitely happening. It's probably something I need to work on, right? So let's go ahead and just add a new submission. And in here we'll have a couple of things. So trick ID, first of all I'll do is I'll just point it at the backflip. Then description, we'll have something like test description. I've tried to go for height, for max height, right? So sometimes there is this thing in tricking. Everybody's doing all these complicated tricks, but then there is a competition of the highest backflip, right? And it's the ultimate peak of respect if you can backflip really high, okay? And it's just basically a thing that you can do, taking like simple things to absurd levels, okay? So that kind of thing that we want. What else is there? We actually need to point to a video. So I am going to get my file explorer out. I got some images for blog posts and stuff like that. So I'll copy 2 videos from here. I'm just going to put them in my www root folder, right? So we're going to create 2 submissions that we can use. So one is vid3.mp4. And let's just check the fields on the submission, make sure. It doesn't seem like I need anything more. Let's go ahead, copy this. Let's say this is vid4. Obviously we're missing stuff like user information and etc, but that's pretty much it, right? So one is for maximum height, one is for minimum height. Both of the neither of the videos are for backflips. They're just some tricking videos. Other than that, they should just show up under this trick. So let's go ahead, close these 2. I will close this browser and or what am I talking about? Browser folder. Let's give this a refresh, and here we have the videos. A couple of things I wanted to fix is, as I'm looking at this more and more, this medium difficulty and this tricking library. I want to remove the difficulty from here, and I want to make this button throw us to the home page, right? So let's take care of this. So going to the trick, the difficulty that we're using, where is it? There it is. Let's go ahead and just remove it. On the default layout, let's go ahead and if you how you use basically navigation in Nuxt or even Vuejs. In Vuejs, what you have is a router link, right? So that's for view router. Usually, if you don't have the the to property that will enable navigation in Nuxt, you want to use a Nuxt link, okay? And here we just want to point to the beginning essentially, right? And actually don't need the dynamic binding. Let's see what this looks like, right? So medium, and let's fix this up, right? It's no good. So class, or rather, let's go to styles first. Text decoration, none. So that should remove the underline. Text, I think that's how you do it. Text color primary, yeah. So again, if you're confused about this thing, how you do the colors and stuff like that, you can go to Vuetify documentation and check it out. I'm gonna try to refer to it less and less, because I think throughout the previous videos it's already more or less apparent how I use the Vue docs. Just you need something before solving the problem yourself, go and check if it exists. That's pretty much the process, right? And yeah, let's just make it bigger. So text H5, yeah, and if we click on it, throws us back. Difficulty is easy as well. Go ahead, see the progressions. There we are. So video player, let's pimp it out, right? Going into the Explorer here, for the components, what I want to do is just add a new view component, and we'll call this video player. And actually, let's name it correctly. Player. Yep. Let's close that thing and player. Okay. So let's format this real quick, and the default bit we can close. Let's go ahead and start extracting stuff from here and just see what we need, right? So we can just grab the whole div, Control Tab to come back here and put the div here, right? So we got this route first. This is something that we actually might want to seed from the settings or something like that. So not editor configuration. There should be like an env file, right? But that's something that we'll tackle later. Let's just sprinkle a to-do here. Take care of the localhost address, right? And I think that should be enough, right? So let's go ahead and quickly get our video component in here. So video player, just so we can basically take a look at it, make it self-closing. And in the video player, this SID that we get here, same as we did with the props in the other places, let's go ahead and just supply a video here, where this is going to be an object. Required is going to be true, and type is going to be string, right? So it's more or less an identifier of the video. And now we can just bind the video. Coming back to the browser, let's refresh this, and we should essentially end up with more or less the same thing, except for the video player. When we bind the video, let's make sure we use the colon, and let's pass the video here, and there we go, right? So first of all, let's do a couple of things. I want to remove the controls, all this stuff around it, no good. Also want to mute the video. I don't, kind of like Instagram where you have volume, I don't feel like this needs volume. Also, I don't want to be dealing with the MCA claims or whatever, so no music, right? I'm pretty sure we can also remove it in the back end, like just yank the audio out. So the controllers are gone, and another thing, let's make it loop as well. So we can't play the video right now, so let's go ahead and make that, right? Let's make this, and actually probably worth mentioning what I want to do. I want an overlay over the video, kind of like just a play button. Okay, so you click on it, it starts playing. You click on it again, it stops playing. Okay, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get a video container in here. And here for the language, I'll actually use SCSS. I'm not using Sass because that's gonna have absence of like curly brackets and semicolons. I'm a little bit uneasy with that. I'm used to my... basically, it doesn't make sense for me to strip those away because I'm using it in C# and I'm using it in JavaScript. It will just go against my sort of flow pattern of thinking, right? So I'm used to, and I'm kind of using currently the brackets and semicolons, and then it basically takes that away from me. So it just kind of interrupts me. So that's why I'll prefer SCSS over Sass. Okay. So let's get a video container in here. And for this video container, we'll just leave it empty for now. We will put the video in here. So you can see we're putting video inside the .video container. I will not go into SCSS. The preprocessors, they just make it a lot more intuitive to work with CSS. So, I mean, this should be pretty self-explanatory, right? The CSS is going to mimic the structure of our HTML and apply styles accordingly. That's all you need to know. Now, what I will do here is I will set the width to something like 480 pixels. And here I will say that the width should be 100%, right? So we're just gonna set a maximum width on the video container, and then we're gonna fill it out, right? So there it is. Now let's go ahead and get this overlay in here. So this div, let's say play button. So this play button also lives in here. Okay, and we essentially want to make it so it's over the video. So first of all, let's just background color, we'll give it a black one so we can try and see it here. Obviously we won't, so we can do something along the lines of width 100% and height is 100%. See what happens. We don't see it either way. Maybe if we do something like remove the width on here, this just overflows. That is fine, whatever. We don't see it because the video is occupying 100% of the width, so go figure. So what we'll do is position, we'll set absolute on here, and now it should just bleed out, right? So how do we contain it? To contain it, the parent element has to have a position of relevant to contain the inside absolute, right? So we set this to relative, and this should now give us black boxes. So on here, now what we want to do is, instead of a static color, we want to use an RGBA. Okay, if you don't know what RGBA stands for, it's red, green, blue. So all of our colors are a consistency of those three. So it's, to some degree, you up and down the red, green, and blue. There's like 255 values in each. And then the last one, the A, is alpha. So that's the opacity. That's the how transparent it's going to be, right? And for now, we can just set 1. So we're going to get the exact same result. And then if we set this to half, it's going to be something along the lines of this. Let's go ahead and give this a 36. And there we go. Also, you can see there is a... I don't know if you can actually see that. So it's probably a little bit easier to see here. So the video container is bigger than the video. And that's because the play button is here as well. So CSS is not sometimes is not the most intuitive thing, but a really quick way we can fix this is just make this flex, and this little black bar on the bottom should just get sucked in, right? And now our component is looking fresh, you know. Okay, so let's get a play button in here, right? V icon, and for the V icon, the parameter that we supply is the icon that we would usually supply to things like a trick list. Like you can see here we supplied MDI magnify. Here we want to supply MDI play. So yep, there it is. You can see it's at the top left. How do we center it? Surprise, surprise. Flexbox. Right. Display, flex, justify content, center, align, items, center. Easy enough. Again, if you don't know much about the V icon component of Vuetify, go check the documentation. I already sort of know how to use it, so I'm gonna put size on here. I think, let's see. Yeah, that looks alright. So 78 pixels looks okay to me. Let's go ahead and when you click on this, let's make it so it plays the video, right? So on the play button, let's put a click event, and in here, what we can do is we can introduce some data. And, oh, that was not the way. And we can say, is the video playing? And to start with, it's always going to be false. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically say playing equals, and this is gonna be sort of like toggle functionality, right? Playing. So we're basically gonna keep switching the playing variable. And for this, all we're going to do is implement a watcher, because we have to interact with the video player kind of like an object. So this is where I'm going to do it. So every time playing is going to change, we're gonna have a function and the value is gonna be coming in. So if we're playing, play the video, else pause the video, right? So how do we grab the video? We can use a ref tag. So we essentially put a tag on it, and this element becomes a JavaScript object. So now all we have to do is reference it. So on this, we can access all the refs, and this is not Nuxt functionality, this is standard Vuejs functionality. So we basically just tag any element, and now it would be equivalent of document get element by ID, and we get the JavaScript representation of the HTML object. Same thing happens here, except I guess it's a little bit more intuitive. And we just want to play, and otherwise for the video we want to pause. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and maybe see if this works. So clicking on this doesn't do anything. One thing we can do is inspect the element and just kind of hover over this, and you can see that the element that gets selected in the DOM tree is the video element. So essentially they are on the same level. However, the video element is below that one. So they're on the same level, but not really. So let's level them out. Okay, so we want to put the video on, this is going to be the Z index, right? We want to put the video below and the play button above. So in here where we have the width for the video, for the Z index, let's put 1. I see people put crazy numbers on here like 100, 99999, 1 and 2, okay? Don't go too crazy with these, otherwise it's easy to get lost kind of thing. So yeah, so now you can essentially see we are now actually clicking on the play button and it is above the video. So now we want to hide it, right? So if it's playing, hide it. One thing about SCSS, I guess, to mention, you can see how here we are mimicking the structure. What if we want an optional class here? How do we do that bit? Instead of just saying that we want a hide, so hide means it's the next element inside the play button element. If we want to say that this is going to be a class present on this, on the element with this class, we put an and, right? Play button and hide, do this thing. Let's just say that we want the, or let's try first opacity 0. Let's see how that works out for us. Okay, so we're not binding any class, so let's actually bind the class as well. So every time we're playing, we want to bind the what's it called, the hide class, and the way that you do this is kind of similar to how you bind props. So we're basically saying we're expecting this parameter, and here are the conditions for this parameter. Here we're saying we are expecting a basically a class to be bound to this element, and this class is going to be depending on the playing variable. So if this condition, this is really a condition clause, so if this condition is true, we are going to give this class to this element. If this condition is false, this class is going to be unbound, and that's basically how class binding works with Vue. Okay, and again, this is not a Nuxt thing, this is a Vuejs functionality. So yeah, there we go. Opacity 100%. So we're not removing the element because we still want to be able to click on it to pause it. We are just basically making the opacity go to 0, so it just becomes transparent and invisible. Okay, so I mean that's pretty much it. So taking a look at the element, I think it looks alright. Let's go ahead and make it look a little bit cooler with the rest of the stuff, right? So in the trick where we have the video player and where we display the submissions, let's replace the div with the v card, okay? And it should make it look, I don't know, like nothing just yet. Let's go ahead and introduce a the text field, and we're just going to put the description in here. The trick ID, we're gonna remove it, right? So at the moment, not sure why it's going ballistic. Let's give this a refresh. Let's look at this, and okay, so it's expecting a key, so that's fine. So for the key, I think I'm gonna be utilizing this X in a minute as well. So for now, let's go ahead and say X trick ID. Do we have access to trick ID here? Nope. So just trick ID, and we will grab submission.id as well, or rather SID. Okay. Let's pimp this out to like 10, and let's sprinkle a to do in here. To do, clean up submission IDs. I'm pointing up. So yeah, it's basically, I'm identifying this as something potentially to screw me over in the future. So before finishing development, when I'm going to be removing this loop and basically cleaning up this ID, it's just something to make sure if I'm going to be glancing over my pull requests or changes, it's something to basically double check before going live, sort of thing, right? So we got this. Let's take a look. Let's give this a refresh now that we have keys. Still got a failure. Maybe I didn't put a correct component. So it's not a vText field. It's a vCard text component. Okay. So that's fine. Okay. So here we go. We got text. We got the player. You can see how they're all stuck together. Let's separate this. One thing is with the margin on top here, I'm gonna do the same thing we did in the category component where we had margin top 3, and I think the difficulty component had the same, right? So there is potential to, you can see how these components are going to be pretty much the same. I think we can extract that as well and have it as a separate component as well, and that will just give us a handle on having this page in particular, this style of layout, consistent in terms of where things are positioned. So in case you didn't notice, if we go to flip, you can see that the card is a different size and it's going to be in a slightly different position. So you can see it's moving. And if we go to medium as well, like the position of it changes. So if we want to introduce columns and such, it's easier to basically extract this component into its own sort of template, and the stuff that we want to render in there, supply it through slots, okay? And then if we want to change the layout of this page, we only have to change one place. So why are we not getting the videos? Not sure. Let's go back here and navigate. So these videos right here, one thing that springs to mind is the key, really. So let's try this. We're gonna grab the key, and we're actually going to put it on the video card, or sorry, video player instead. Now let's just double check that we are not gonna get the key warning here, and we still do. So let's just duplicate the key here, and on this one we're gonna say that it's a video, so we're gonna prefix it with a video. It's really not liking the first load. I'm not sure what is wrong with it. Maybe going back and forwards. Okay, so it's something to fix for us, but for now I think just don't navigate too much, because solving this kind of issue is just going to be a lot of googling around why this happens, and I don't want to make it a part of this video. It's something that I'm probably going to fix in the next video and maybe explain how I arrived at the solution. But for now, let's fix this top bit. So you can see the actual stickiness is broken. So all that means is that where we had our assets, the variables, it's no longer bound. So let's actually take this opportunity to rename this to main, move this to a directory. We'll call it CSS, right? So Control X to cut it, Control V to paste it in there. And one thing is in the Nuxt config, this is where we will have to supply the path to the CSS, right? So @ is basically the local directory for the web client here, and we're gonna go / assets CSS and main SCSS. So we're just loading CSS from this file, and something is failing to import variables.scss. So the easiest way to do this is Ctrl+Shift+F variables and see where it's getting used. So let's go ahead and take a look. Seems like a lot of things. There's the web client get ignore, client.js. Okay, so there it is. I mean, it's probably would have been easier to single this particular component out by adding .scss to it. So make sure to put in the fully qualified name. So it's just supplying our custom variables to the Vuetify framework. We don't need that, so I'll just go ahead and remove that. And that should take care of the part where that file gets used. So let's give this a hard refresh because we've changed the Nuxt configuration, and the videos seem to load this time. So maybe that's not an issue that we will have to solve. So, right, sticky part is back. Right, so that's the part that we wanted to fix. Sticky is back. Let's move it up from the top a little bit. So margin top 3, same as the other bits. So you can see that this moves back up. It sticks. So what I will do is I'll just inspect element here, and I will take a look at how much margin is this. 12 pixels, right? So in the main, where I set the top here on the sticky, we're just gonna add 12 to this. So let's go ahead and supply 60. And now if I move, you should see that it should not break that rule of the margin, okay? There's still part to figure out what is this gonna look like on mobile, right? But for now, this is it. Let's fix this up a bit. So let's not press Ctrl F5, Ctrl F4 to close that. And on here where we have the card, let's give this a class, and we will just give margin bottom a little bit, and maybe a 3. So I feel like this size, these sizes here, they kind of have to be consistent. Okay, so let's remove the margin on here, and we will introduce margin of x3 on here. And this is what I talked about, styling these components. So you can see that it just makes that aesthetic a little bit more pleasing. This part is 3 pixels, this part is 3 pixels, and this part is 3 pixels. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to solve, it's probably hard to see on here, but the corners on the bottom, yeah, definitely can't see it on my screen, but the corners here are rounded. The corners here on the top are not rounded. So if we, let's go ahead and straight up comment this out. If we take a look at the card, all the corners are rounded. And this is the thing about the Vuetify card, is that the corners are rounded. So what I want to do is I want to round the top corners. So if we inspect the V card, let's grab the radius. We can see the radius that it's using, and it's using 4 pixels. Okay. If we take a look at the V card text, we can see the kind of thing that it's doing is it's using border bottom left radius and bottom right radius, and it just uses inherit. Okay, so that's what we can use, right? Let's make our video container inherit radius for the top part, if there is any. Okay, so we can go ahead, copy this part, Control Tab back into here, go into video player, and for our video container, let's put this here, and we'll change bottom to top, and same thing here. Let's copy this, and we're gonna put it on the video player as well, right? Remember that we have two things, we have two divs. So, and I just want to make sure that this radius is being propagated through both of them. Okay, if we end up adding headers on here, right? So something at the top, like a v title. So let's take a look at how that would look. So if we would go here, card title, hi. You can see the video, it's not looking good. Maybe we can do something along the lines of wrapping it like that. So we stop inheriting, and then that can be square, and then that bit on the top. So that if in the future it's kind of like trying to foresee what kind of problems we will run into and trying to already come up with a solution. So will we be able to solve this problem quickly if it occurs? The answer is yes. We can just wrap it in a div. For now, I don't need the title, right? So let's remove that. Let's take a look in all its glory. Playing, we got the description, we scrolling it. One thing, we will solve it later, but essentially you can see that we can play multiple videos at the same time. And another thing is buffering as well. So if I refresh this, I am loading 5 videos all at the same time. This doesn't look like an impact right now, but when you're over the internet, and these are scaled down videos. So imagine you are going to be rendering 5 or 10 videos in the background over your mobile internet. You can be downloading like 10 megabytes at a time. So small thumbnails, do not download the video until you click play. All right, this is also going to be part of the video player. We click play. Can we instantly play the video? Do we need a loader kind of thing, etc.? So these are, again, these are just kind of things that we will have to watch out for, but this video is good for now as well. Let's give this a Control F5. I'm really not sure why it doesn't display sometimes, but yeah. You can see pretty much good components rounded on the top. You can solve it if it's not right. Anyway, this will be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, as always, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section or come reach out to me on Discord. I also stream on Wednesdays and Sundays, so join that if you're into that kind of thing. Have a good day, and hopefully I'll see you in my other episodes.